Hi, my name is Richard Hayes. I'm one of the partners here at Walker & Taylor in Houston, Texas, and I handle our applications for full pardons and firearms rights restoration. A pardon is an act of executive clemency. It's from the governor of the state of Texas, and it restores certain rights that are lost due to certain convictions, think felonies or misdemeanor crimes of domestic violence. And that includes the right to keep and bear arms under certain circumstances. A pardon doesn't automatically restore someone's firearms rights. Now, it's the same general application. You'll see a question about, are you requesting the restoration of firearms rights? But there's some added materials that go into a pardon application specifically as it relates to firearms. So that's all to say, if you don't ask for your gun rights back at the same time that you submit a request for a pardon, if a pardon is granted, you won't get your gun rights back. Now, there's a lot of confusion about a pardon as it relates to, let's think of expunctions or non-disclosures. An expunction is the destruction and deletion of a record. Think of a criminal arrest and prosecution. Now, expunctions only come up in cases where the case was dismissed, or they were acquitted, or they were never formally charged and the statute of limitations has expired. And again, another one, a non-disclosure, that is really just a sealing of records. So let's say a person received a deferred adjudication on a serious felony. Maybe they could get that record sealed, but that record would still be available to government agencies. Now, compare that to a pardon. A pardon is a complete forgiveness and removal of disabilities for certain convictions. And I think it's also kind of a misnomer that if you get a pardon, those records go away. They don't, but they reflect that, there's a post-conviction action, that the disabilities are removed. And I will say there are some circumstances where a pardon can be expunged, but those are limited typically to cases of actual innocence. There are several different types of pardons available in Texas, but primarily at our firm, we're focusing on, requests for relief because someone needs and deserves a pardon. And to contrast this a little bit, this is different than a pardon for, let's say, actual innocence, where there's new evidence or prosecutorial misconduct or something like that. Generally what we're looking at is this kind of an isolated incident? Has a substantial amount of time passed? And are you a valued member of the community and are deserving of a second chance? That's what we're really looking at when we're evaluating pardon cases at our firm. A common question is, am I eligible for a pardon? Well, for most folks, the answer is yes. If your sentence has been completed, you're released from supervision, or in certain cases of deferred adjudication, there is a 10-year waiting period. But it really is so individual to each case, and so to determine eligibility, you'll really want to speak to an attorney. The application for a full pardon can be found at the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles website. That's tdcj.texas.gov. And there you'll see it's a lengthy application with lots of instructions, and it explains all of the documents that need to go into an application. And so it kind of begs the question, what documentation is needed to go into the application? Well, your demographic information, your status as to, prior convictions or incarcerations, your address and employment history from age 18 to today, background information on each criminal arrest since age 16 to present, or if younger than 16, if you were certified as an adult. And corresponding with each one of those arrests is the necessary court documentation and offense reports. And depending on the outcome of the case, really dictates what documents are needed for the application to be deemed complete. And so that can be a little bit complicated, but the board lays out all of their instructions in the application itself. And then you're going to need some letters of support. Now, these are letters directed to the Board of Pardons and Paroles from people who are familiar with your character and who recommend a full pardon and rights restoration on your behalf. Now, again, like everything in this application, there's some very specific requirements, and you'll want to pay close attention to those details. There are several other items that have to be included in the application, such as your local criminal history, your justification about why you need and deserve a pardon, but all of these things are laid out in the application itself. The pardon process really varies depending on the complexity of the application. My office, I think we've prepared a pardon in less than a month. I've had pardons that take over a year. It really depends on a person's background, what documents are going to be required, and getting things organized for the application itself. Now, let's assume that you have a complete application, it goes to the board, and they don't recommend a pardon, or let's say they do recommend a pardon and it goes to the governor, and he denies the request for a pardon. A common question I get from folks is, how long do I gotta wait before I can reapply? And the answer is 2 years you have to wait before you could reapply for a pardon. Here at Walker & Taylor, we have kind of a very detail-oriented process for assisting clients with pardon applications, because by no means do you need an attorney to complete a pardon application for you. All of these materials are available on the Board of Pardons and Paroles website, but what we do at our firm is we kind of break it into 2 stages. The first is what we call a consultation. This is where we're doing some background research and figuring out exactly what needs to go into the application itself in order to be deemed complete. And then, at that stage, the ultimate part of the consultation is it culminates with a meeting where we go through the application step by step, point out all the documents that need to be acquired. And my goal with the consultation is that the client has everything that they need so that they could go and complete the application themselves. But I'll say a big chunk of our clients need help. They want some attention to detail, the T's crossed, I's dotted. Maybe they don't have time. Maybe they just want some additional assistance with this to make sure nothing is missing. We make ourselves available to assist with the preparation of a full application at that point as well. Our firm pays special care to pardon applications. With regard to a pardon, there's really 3 stages. First, the clemency screening stage. Second, the board reviews the application. And third, the governor decides ultimately. Now, where a lot of people get tripped up is just in the clemency screening part of the application process, because their applications are deemed not compliant, and so they never see the light of day, the board never votes on them, and they never really get considered. What I think our firm does particularly well is the attention to detail, so that the applications actually make it to the board for consideration. And like I said earlier, by no means do you need an attorney to help prepare a pardon application for you, but with anything, there definitely could be some benefits there. Now, the most common question I get with regard to pardon applications are, what are my chances of success? Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I don't have good news. Historically, the chances of obtaining a pardon in any given year are approximately 5%, so that's pretty low. Now, each of these are done on a case-by-case basis, so just because a pardon's not granted in one circumstance doesn't mean it won't be granted in another circumstance. And in cases where there's kind of no precedent, hey, has this kind of crime ever been pardoned before? Because there's so few pardons granted, it's difficult to glean, hey, this is a great case for a pardon, or this isn't a good case for a pardon. But I'll tell you the things that the board is looking for. They're looking for folks who've really turned their lives around. A substantial amount of time has passed. Extreme and unusual circumstances exist, or they're a valued member of the community. All of these things go to show, hey, look, I'm a different person than the person that committed that crime. And, based on what we can tell, that's the kind of stuff the board is looking for. If you're interested in assistance with a pardon application, feel free to reach out to us, walkertaylorlaw.com, or our phone number, 281-668-9957. We'll start the process with what we call a rights restoration disclosure. We gather some basic information about you. We then kind of tailor what a consultation would look like to your cases. And then ultimately at that consultation, we determine, hey, is this something you should pursue as far as obtaining a pardon? Or, I have lots of clients who say, hey, I know everything I need to do after the consultation. I'm going to handle this my own. But we really try to make it work for a lot of different circumstances. But if you need help, feel free to reach out to us.